the factual evidence is overwhelmingly in favor of the fact that there was a genocide, and Turkey's explanation that, basically things happen in wars and, yeah, people died, but it wasn't a targeted effort is just not supported by the historical evidence. If your history isn't recognized, it makes it hard to forgive and move on.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special GZERO conversation. I'm Ian Bremmer, and today we're talking about President Biden's recent statement recognizing the Armenian Genocide at the hands of the Ottoman Empire, an atrocity that began 106 years ago during World War I. The move from the White House will no doubt have ramifications for U.S.-Turkey relations going forward. Here to discuss all of this are two prominent Armenian voices. Varuzhan Nersesyan is Armenia's ambassador to the United States. Nina Hachigian serves as deputy mayor for international affairs in Los Angeles. Welcome to you both.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Ian, and nice pronunciation of my last name.
I won't even say I've been practicing. No, thank you so much. Okay, let me start with Varuzhan. I want to get your reactions to the Biden statement, something the Armenian community has very long hoped for, has not seen from other administrations. Varuzhan.
Thank you very much, Ian, for having us with GZERO. And of course, the reaction from Armenia and Armenian communities worldwide and Armenian American community was very, very enthusiastic, positive, and welcoming. And we officially, as the Republic of Armenia, we definitely welcomed the Prime Minister immediately after the President's statement, sent a letter to President Biden, thanking him for this, historic fact of the recognition. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs immediately released a press statement about this. But overall, for the Armenian people, this was a feeling of justice, feeling of human rights prevailing, that these are the overall perception, of course, very much enthusiastic that we had about this statement. I mean, for decades, we have been facing the waves after another of denialism by Turkey and elsewhere. And, for us, this was a historic achievement for the cause of justice and the prevailing of human rights. And for this, we have a deep, deep gratitude to what President Biden did. And we had, in fact, I personally had never had doubt, given his previous record being a champion for human rights and for the right causes. I personally have seen him as in my previous capacity as deputy chief of mission when President Biden was at the time Senate Foreign Affairs Committee chairman. He has been always a strong advocate of Armenian genocide recognition. And I personally was with him when he attended the service at the Washington Cathedral. And I saw the expression in his face at the time. And I knew that this was going to happen.
Nina, not many issues out there that get support across the political spectrum these days in a very divided United States. This appears to be one. You're deputy mayor in Los Angeles, a metropolitan area with the largest number of Armenians in the country. Give us your thoughts on all of this.
Well, it was just, I'd say, overwhelming joy on the part of the Armenian community here and every other American Armenian that I spoke to that day, because it's been a long time coming and we've gotten very close many times only to have it not happen. I mean, most presidents have promised to recognize the genocide during campaigns, but then haven't actually gone ahead and done it. And to have it actually happen was just a very big deal, a lot of relief, a lot of joy. I've come relatively late to this effort. I mean, people have been advocating and marching and petitioning for generations for this. And so, it was just lots of screams and cheers and crying and relief out here.
So Varuzhan, a lot is being made of this, of course. And again, as Nina just said, there have been promises. President Obama notably made that campaign promise, pulled it back. Many of his top advisors were very disappointed by that, some of whom are in the Biden administration. The statement itself focused historically, and of course this happened back in 1915, on the Ottoman Empire, did not talk about the Republic of Turkey today, did not talk about the fact that President Erdogan himself, of course, still has not accepted that this was a genocide. Is that acceptable? I mean, should more have been done to call out present-day Turkey, in your view?
Well, I think the statement in itself is obvious. Of course, it condemns the recognition, it condemns the genocide of Armenians that took place 106 years ago. But at the same time, its message in general is directed not only to the 106 years ago, but also to our contemporary times and to the future, because the statement itself says that this type of atrocities should not be, tolerated. This should prevent. So in that sense, perhaps I think the statement speaks for itself. But this is an opportunity, in my opinion, Jan, if you want, for Turkey to reconcile itself. This gives an opportunity. This opens an avenue for Turkey to himself recognize with their history. And only after that we can look forward towards normal, healthy, and harmonious relations in our region, because we don't need, any further animosity in that region. And the U.S. is there with this statement to bring further security and stability. If this transforms into a consistent policy, which I have no doubt that under President Biden-Harris administration is going to be the case, and U.S. is going to be engaged in that region. So this statement to me indicates a readiness to positively engage in that region and to bring, peace and stability, which goes through Turkey's recognition if it's passed.
For all of the hand-wringing about the potential hardline Turkish response, we're not seeing very much so far. The state media in Turkey has downplayed it. The Turkish government certainly complained about it publicly, but we don't see the ambassador being recalled, and we certainly don't see any steps or direct measures being taken against the U.S. economically or diplomatically. Nina, you surprised by that?
Not really. Someone in the many conversations that I've had about this suggested that this is actually going to improve U.S.-Turkey relations. And I think that that's probably correct. I mean, this has always been a stumbling block, and now we're past it. And the United States has spoken the truth, what everyone knows to be the truth. And we've stood up for human rights as we well should, as the Biden administration has made a centerpiece of its foreign policy. And so I don't see what the advantage would be for Turkey to make a bigger deal of this from their point of view. I think it's best to downplay it. I mean, we already have many other problems in the U.S.-Turkey relationship. And I would say that in general, the fact that we're at kind of a low point in our bilateral relations, it was just another factor that made this recognition possible.
A low point, but still, Erdogan did attend the climate summit last week when he already knew this policy was coming, and still when Biden called him up and said that he was going to make this announcement, also said, I'd like to meet one-on-one in the NATO summit coming up in Europe in June, and Erdogan said, fine.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think that there's a lot of repair that needs to happen. And if Erdogan makes a huge deal of this, that just makes the repair even harder. But I think it's in Turkey's interest to have a good relationship with the United States, and he's being offered a chance to make that happen. I mean, Putin was also at the climate summit. So, climate and... Xi
Jinping was too. Yes,
and,
absolutely.
We have an agreement with China on climate. So, climate knows no bounds. Like, that's just an issue we need to deal with everybody on.
So, Varuzhan, talking about the need for reconciliation, of course, the big opportunity going forward is how do we normalize relations between Turkey and Armenia? Does this step by the Americans make you feel more optimistic about that? What are some steps that can be taken going forward by both sides that would bring peace to the region?
Thank you. Yes, this statement gives me some optimism, some hope. But as I said, the reconciliation goes through the recognition of one's own past. And we hope very much Turkey, and especially given this sort of somewhat, mild response, maybe Turkey understands the necessity of this, that at some point they're going to come to this point. But more importantly, for a broader peace in our region, I think as a result of this statement, Turkey, first of all, should stop threatening and attacking the modern Republic of Armenia, which has been the case, and Nagorno-Karabakh throughout the last, war, September war, launched by Azerbaijan with full participation and support of Turkey. As we know, Turkey participated in that war. Turkey dispatched its foreign terrorist fighters. Turkey dispatched also a huge amount of drones and other equipment, including F-16s. So if this continues, it's not going to be possible. Turkey encourages Azerbaijan's intransigence based on kinship. So if Turkey wants to be a really regionally respected power, Turkey needs to play a completely impartial role in this. In fact, I would say Turkey, the best thing would be to stay completely out of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. That would be the best way to help Armenians and Azerbaijanis to settle this issue. But with Turkey's intentions there and full support to Azerbaijan, this is not going to... And that's why we hope the United States, being back in its engagement policy in the South Caucasus, will bring the balance back to where we can talk, sit and disentangle these issues, have, Armenia-Turkish track separately, deciding the possibility of normalizing, because we cannot live forever in this uncertainty. And on the other hand, helping a full, comprehensive solution of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict based on the proposals of the OSCE Minsk Group co-chairs. And this is very important to maintain the integrity. United States, Russia, and France have worked hand in hand to bring peace and stability. It was just Azerbaijan's aggression that put this conflict into a completely wrong track. And right now, Azerbaijan claims that the issue is not resolved.
And of course, that there was a status quo of Armenian occupation into Azeri territory that the Armenians weren't negotiating, and as the Azeris were building up their military capabilities. So the asymmetry, of course, when power balances change, that's when things get dangerous. And the United States, the idea that Turkey is going to be an honest broker on Karabakh is kind of like asking the U.S. to be an honest broker on Israel-Palestine. So, we recognize the limitations of the context in the region. It is hard. And Armenia is a country, of course, that is landlocked and doesn't have a lot of friends out there. So it's challenging. But I want to ask him, and because we're talking about the genocide issue, I do want to ask, do either of you believe that Turkey's historical commission, its investigations, is that a process that could actually be a step forward towards normalization between the two countries? Do you see that as an honest effort inside Turkey?
No, thank you. Just to briefly say that the status quo in Nagorno-Karabakh was holding because only of Azerbaijan's uncompromising, just to reflect on the previous point. But as to the point about the historical commission, etc., I don't think it is now possible, because this is a undisputed fact. We don't have to dig in this respect to history. We need Turkey to recognize the facts of the Armenian genocide and move forward. That was in some tacit form. There was an idea in the protocols that was signed between Armenia and Turkey in Zurich. It was reflected in some very mild form of some kind of commission to discuss some issues, but it was not definitely questioning the fact of the Armenian genocide. Any exercise that can be done cannot question the fact of the Armenian genocide. If Turkey sincerely, earnestly, and openly looks into this matter and looks into its own, then we can discuss anything together with each other. But Turkey itself denounced the protocols that were signed between Armenia. There was a chance. Azerbaijan negatively impacted and did not let Turkey to sign and fulfill those protocols. There was a chance for Armenia and Turkey to move forward. But it was because Azerbaijan's intervention into this matter that it didn't happen. So historical commission cannot come forward again, because we now have the more increasing wave of the recognitions of Armenian genocide. But if Turkey recognizes the genocide, we can do any kind of discussion on understanding, all of these facts.
I would just add to that, I'm not a historian, but in my looking into the research here, it's not the factual evidence is overwhelmingly in favor of the fact that there was a genocide, and Turkey's explanation that basically things happen in wars, and people died, but it wasn't a targeted effort, is just not supported by the historical evidence. nor is it supported by the stories that that so many Armenian Americans have heard from their grandparents about what happened. So that's, I guess, another aspect that is troubling with denial, is that it's basically telling Armenian Americans that our grandparents were liars and, didn't witness what they actually witnessed. And that makes it hard to move on. If your history isn't recognized, it makes it hard to forgive and move on. All countries have historical incidences of injustice that they regret. In the United States, it's slavery, it's the decimation of the Native American population, and we're still coming to terms with that, but we're not, or at least most of us are not, saying that those things didn't happen. So that's what makes it difficult in the face of a lot of evidence that this is actually what happened. It was ethnic cleansing, it was genocide.
So maybe the final point I would raise with both of you is, now that this has happened, do you think we can move forward? In other words, April 24th in the United States has, certainly since I was a kid, been this period where the dominant issue for the community is we have to get this recognition. Now that it's occurred, do you think that it stops consuming both sides, or do you think that the age-old tensions still are going to continue to replay annually?
Yeah. If you mean the two sides, Turkey and Armenia, I think Varuzhan's point about the war just a few months ago is instructive. It's hard to feel, a lot of warmth when you've lost 5,000 soldiers, and Turkey was a huge, ally to Azerbaijan. I do hope we move forward eventually. And now that, we have a sort of fragile peace. It's not a final peace, though. We really, the Nagorno-Karabakh issue needs to have a final resolution. I would say that I hope that some of our energy, though, moves more toward helping Armenia's future. It is a democracy in that region, a fragile democracy, but a democracy nonetheless, and in a really important strategic location for the United States. And I think it needs a lot of help. It needs economic development of all kinds. Its institutions need to be bolstered, its democratic institutions. And I hope the United States makes, a full effort in that to do those things. And it obviously also needs security assistance.
Varuzhan, last word to you.
Thank you, Jan. And of course, I agree with Nina. Also, a lot will depend on how Turkey will take this, how Turkey will continue. It's going to continue the policies of denialism, or Turkey is going to get use of this opportunity to enter into a more positive track and stop its intimidation and aggression towards the modern Republic of Armenia. A lot will depend on that, how Turkey will, if Turkey will open its border, because there are a lot of things that depend on that. But as for the, Armenian-American relations, of course, this issue, once it's recognized, this is gonna, I hope, transform into certain policies. I hope the U.S. officials are no longer gonna have restrictions calling the things by their own names. In the past, we know that even there was an ambassador who lost his job for using the term genocide in regard to the Armenian genocide. So I hope this transforms into a deep policies and into a bringing further regional peace and security. This is what I think. But for the U.S.-Armenian relations, of course, this is going to continue because these relations are based on shared values. Armenia now is a committed democracy. U.S. help and assistance is crucial in developing democracy in Armenia, genuine democracy, free market economy, and making Armenia successful, sovereign, independent state in that region. Armenia can play an important role in developing regional full cooperation and relations without any reservations. Armenia has been at the forefront of these policies, but it's been Turkey and Azerbaijan that have been blocking Armenia and isolating Armenia by any way they could. So these policies should change, and it's the U.S. who can make difference in these matters, and they play a positive role, which we hope is the case with this, new realities in the region, and especially Biden-Harris administration's commitment to re-engage in the region, including through the Minsk group. So there are a lot of ways to do this, and Armenia is ready. Armenia, you know that Armenia is heading towards elections soon in June, and we are confident whichever way it goes, it's going to be the choice of the people of Armenia. But one thing is clear, that Armenia and our government is going to make sure that democracy prevails. And Armenia will be ready to enter in any way, in positive discussions around these issues.
In a world with so much disinformation and fake news and political polarization, it's nice to be able to report on a story where we're moving towards taking a step towards better understanding the world around us and our history. So I thank both of you for joining me today, Nina Hachigian and Varuzhan Nersesyan, two tireless advocates in the U.S. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ian, for hosting us.
Yeah, we enjoyed it. Thank you.
That's it for today's edition of the GZERO World Podcast. Like what you've heard? Come check us out at gzeromedia.com and sign up for our newsletter, Signal.
You're listening to the GZERO World with Ian Bremmer podcast, your weekly geopolitical deep dive into the world's biggest news stories, featuring in-depth conversations with global leaders and newsmakers. To get more of GZERO's insights on global politics every morning, sign up for our free newsletter, GZERO Daily, at gzeromedia.com.